You all are welcome to our first introductory class to what product design is. And I assure you that at the end of this 1 month training, you all are going to have you all are going to have a basic knowledge of what product design is. You understand? And it's going to set a very awesome foundation for you guys to build a career as product designers. So I won't be taking much of our time. We are just going to be looking into certain things briefly, and it's going to be very awesome. So I would have liked to know each and every one of us, but then I don't think we have that luxury of time to allow each person to start introducing him or herself, or his or herself, one after the other. So let's just go straight to what we have for today. So when we're talking about product design, well, for the start, don't confuse yourself. You might have heard people referring to product design as UI UX design. They're actually same thing. So don't confuse yourself. They're actually same thing, either product design or UI UX design. We are still making reference to the same thing. Do you understand? So when we say product design, what exactly is product design? Or when we say UI UX, what exactly is UI UX design? UI UX design is actually a way of, building a product that solves a particular problem. Design itself means problem solving. When you hear the word design, it means problem solving. Anything you design, you are trying to solve a problem. You can't just wake up one day and say, oh, I want to do UI UX design. There must be a motivation, there must be something that's actually responsible for that. So we need to understand what we are doing. We don't just start designing. There are motivation. There is something that motivates us to do what? To design. Please, I need to be sure we can see my screen. Please, if you can see my screen, let me know. Can we see my screen, please?
Yes, we can.
Okay, thank you. So, as I was saying, we didn't just design, we solve problem with designs. Do you understand? Any design that doesn't solve problem is not a good design. So, when we talk about UI UX, in most cases, we make reference to digital product. A product can be physical. For instance, the mobile phone you hold in your hand is a product. Do you understand? Fine, it's an hardware product because it's something you can touch, it's something that is physical, compared to a mobile app that functions on that phone that you are holding. That's a product as well, but it's a digital product. Do you get? So as we move on, you're going to understand better what UI UX design is as an absolute beginner. So like I said, my name is Charles Anyway once again. As you can see on the first slide we have here, Introduction to UI UX for Complete Beginners. So let me go into what we have for today. And now, when we say UI UX, what is UI and what is UX? For every product, there are two essential parts, which include the UI part of that product and the UX part of the product. So UI itself, UI design is a process of creating visually appealing, functional, and interactive interfaces that allows users to engage with a product. I hope we get it. UI design is a process of creating visually appealing, functional, and interactive interfaces that allows users to engage with a product. When a user wants to work with a product or want to have something to do with a product, they need to have a physical interaction with that product. That physical interaction they have with the product is the UI part of that product. The physical interaction users have with the product, do you understand, that they are using is the UI part of the product. UI design focuses mainly on the look and feel of a product, giving the user an intuitive and aesthetically pleasing experience. What are we talking about here? UI, in short, focuses from the word UI. UI means user interface. So UI design, user interface design, focuses on the look and feel of a product, giving the user an intuitive and aesthetical. When they say something is aesthetical, something that is pleasing to the human eye, something people are pleased, to interact with. Maybe because the thing looks beautiful, though they say beauty lies in the eyes of the beholder. Something may look beautiful to you and doesn't look beautiful to another person. But when we say something is aesthetically good, that thing is pleasing to the human eye. So that is exactly what UI does. The part of a product that you interact with as a user, that is the UI of the product. And for UI to be done the best way it's supposed to be done, there are best practices that actually work with this, or that ensures that things are in shape. Do you understand? So UI best practices, they are the guidelines that help you to create a great user interface. These best practices, they are based on the principles of user-centered design and usability. When we say user-centered design, don't get yourself confused. User interface, user experience, everything has user before it. The interface has user before it. The experience has user before it. So which means everything we are doing here is what? Is user-focused, is user-faced. Is user-based rather. So the UI design best practices are guidelines that help you create a great user interface. And these best practices, they are based on the principles of user-centered design and usability. Usability, the ability or the enablement of the product to be able to solve the problem it is meant to solve, to be able to be useful for the target audience, for the people that the product is actually meant for. That is usability. So user-centered design is a design that is user-focused. At every process of your design, you have the interest of your users at heart. That is what a user-centered design is. So with design thinking, you will understand the user's needs and goals, and then use these best practices to create a user interface that meets those needs. As a designer, one thing is very important. You need to understand there is an aspect of design that you need to do. Whether you are a beginner designer or you are an intermediate designer or you are an advanced designer, a very crucial part of design is design thinking. When we say design thinking, in our next slides, I'll be showing you certain things as far as design thinking is concerned. But let me just tell you this now. Without having the knowledge of design thinking, without having the mindset of design thinking, it will be very difficult for you as a product person, as a UI UX designer, to build a product that is user-centric, to build a product that people can actually work with, to build a product that will get into the market, then get positive feedback from people. Without you having the basic knowledge of or the mindset of design thinking, it will be very difficult to achieve all this. Because with design thinking, you will be able to understand the user's needs and goals. Do you understand? With design thinking, you will understand the user's needs and goals, and then use these best practices to create a user interface that meets those needs. Without understanding the needs of your users, without understanding their goals, you can't actually create what they want. It is no rocket science. There are no two ways to that. Without understanding the needs and the goals of your users, it is very difficult. No matter how great you are, no matter how good you are, as a designer, as a product person, as a UI UX person, no matter how good you are, if you don't understand the needs of your users and their goals and their pain points, it should be very difficult to put into use the UI best practices. It will be extremely difficult for you because you just realize that you are creating something and the kind of adoption you need for that thing, you're not getting it. Then you need to know something is actually wrong somewhere. Now, let's check UX on the other part. UX is the process of creating products that provide meaningful and relevant experiences to users. UX, the process of creating products. You create products that provide meaningful and relevant experience to users. Remember, UI is the process of creating visually appealing, functional, and interactive interfaces that allows users to engage with the product. These are two different things. The UI may be very beautiful. It may look so great. If the UX is bad, definitely you are not creating that meaningful and relevant experience we're talking about here. You're not creating it for the users. Even though your product is looking very visually appealing, is looking functional, me looking at it, it looks functional. Some things looks functional by looking at them from a distance. But when you interact with them, you see that they're nothing to write about. So UX is more of how the product works, while UI is more of how the product look and the feel of the product. This UX section will help you learn about the fundamentals of UX design and the importance of user-centric design. A body called Economics of Human System Interaction defined UX as a person's perceptions and responses that result from the use or anticipated use of a product, system, or service. A product can be physical, like I said. At the same time, a product can be something that can be seen, can be digital. It can be something you just have to interact with to know what it is and how it works. Do you understand? But this economics of human system interaction defines UX design or UX as someone's perception, like the perception you have about something as the user of that thing, the responses that people get from the use or the anticipated use of a product, system, or service. That is what UX is. You can see that this UX part has nothing to do with how the product looks like. Some products don't actually look good. They don't look too good in their eye. Fine, as humans, we love it when something looks very beautiful. I understand. But at the same time, to be beautiful is actually not the main goal. Fine, it is good to have a good UI and have a good and have a great UX. But then I think we should be much more focused rather on the experience we have while working with something, while making use of something. We should be much more focused on the experience we have while using something. Do you understand? Because something can be very beautiful and we don't even know that, oh, this thing is a form of deceit. It looks very good in the eye. When you look at it, it looks so good. The product looks very interesting, very tantalizing. Do you understand? Very inviting. But when you start using the product, you realize that, oh, so this is what is there. It's not even something great to write home about. You understand? So UX is more of the experience of the user, how that product works. Why UI is much more focused on the look and the feel of the product. UX design focuses mainly on usability, accessibility, and functionality. I said it already, how a product works. Usability, accessibility, and functionality. That is UX. And this is the main difference that lies between the UI and the UX part of a product. A product is divided into two parts. There is the UI part of that product, and there is the UX part of that product. The UI part of that product is the look of that product. How does the product look like? When you see the product, what do you feel about the product? But the UX part of the product is mainly focused on the usability, the accessibility, and the functionality of your product, how that product works. When we see accessibility, you design products for different people. You know, when you design, you have target audience. When you're building a product, you have people that you're building for. Every product cannot be for everybody. Every product cannot be for everybody. You have your own audience. And that is why you are building what you're building for your own targeted audience. I hope we get it. So now, the next thing I would like us to check together here is design process. I mentioned design thinking the other time in our previous slide. So here, I'll be explaining certain things to us here with respect to design thinking based on what we can see on this slide. This is the design process. Like I said, for every design that you want to, for every product that you want to design or you want to build, there is a thought behind them. Behind all the products, whatever product it is that you want to build, there is a thought, there is a process, there is a thinking that results into you concluding that, okay, this is what I want to build. So the thought, the thinking, the process, these are things that I want to examine here. The design thinking process has 5 phases. The first phase is the phase of empathize. Empathize comes from the word empathy. Now, let me explain this. When we say as a designer, you need to have empathy, this is specific. This is design specific. Empathy here in this context is design specific. And what are we talking about here? You need to understand your user's needs. I said this earlier. You need to understand your user's goals. You need to understand your user's pain points. When you build a product, you don't build a product for yourself. If you build a product for yourself, fine, fantastic. You know it is primarily and basically for yourself. You don't need any other human interaction as far as a product you build for yourself is concerned. But here, we are not building for yourself. I mean, you are not building for yourself. We are talking about you creating solution to people's problem. Remember I told you, if I'm asked, what is design? I will simply put it this way. Design simply means solving problem. There are no 2 ways to explain this. Every other definition we give to design comes under the fact that design means solving problem. So for you to solve problem for a particular demographic, you need to have empathy. And this is where the word empathize comes from as the first step of design process. You need to have empathy. Understand your users' needs, their goals and their pain points. What exactly do users want? What are they trying to achieve? What are their pain points? Imagine you are trying to build a product and there seems to be like, there is an existing, better still, let me put it this way. Imagine you are trying to solve a problem. For instance, let's say you're trying to solve a problem in the transportation industry. Maybe, let's take Lagos as a case study. It's something we all can relate with. Maybe the issue of traffic, people going to their workplaces in the morning, getting to their workplaces lately, and, causing issues between them and the employers and others. Now, sit yourself down and be like, oh, there is a particular problem in Lagos that actually needs to be solved. The problem of transportation. What can we do? What can we do to make sure that we reduce transportation problem in Lagos? Do you understand? And remember, there are brands, there are products that are already trying to solve that problem. The likes of Uber, the likes of InDrive, the likes of Rider. Do you understand? The likes of Bolt, they are trying to solve this problem. For you to build a product that will do something Uber, Bolt, Rider, InDrive has not done or they've not done, you need to meet with the real users of those products, the real users of Bolt, the real users of InDrive, the real users of Uber. You need to have an interaction with them. Ask them questions. What are their needs? What is that problem they are trying to solve that Bolt has not been able to solve? What is that problem they are trying to solve that Uber has not been able to solve? What are their goals for using this product? that seems to be solving transportation problem? What are the pain points? Do they really have enough, or let's say, do they have or do they derive maximum satisfaction from their interaction with this product? Do you understand? So that is the first part of the design process. You need to have empathy. You need to empathize by trying to understand what the needs and the goals and the pain points of your users are. Now, the next stage is define. So when we say define, you've carried out some research, you've done your case study, now you know what your users' needs are, you know what their goals are, you know what their pain points are. Now, from the feedback, from what you got from your user, from the first phase of this design process, then you need to define. You need to clearly articulate the problem you are solving. After getting enough facts, after getting information from them, now you define what solution do you want to prefer. Do you understand? From the information you get from them. So you clearly articulate the problem you are solving and you define their needs. Users will just tell you things generally. They will just say a lot of things. Sometimes they may not even know the particular thing that they want. Users can be very funny. They don't know what they want sometimes. So it is your job as a designer, from whatever they say, to now articulate the problem. They won't tell you what the problem is the way you want it to be said. But from the way they put it, whichever way they put it, your job as a UI UX designer is to be able to articulate their words together, pinpoint what the problem is exactly. Then you are going to know what you are trying to solve. The next thing here is ideas. After you've been able to articulate the problem you're solving and you define your user's needs, then you need to form ideas from the information you get from them. You generate creative solutions and brainstorm ideas. And one thing you need to understand here is that in this particular phase, you might be thinking, oh, I can't even come up with something meaningful right now. No, there are no stupid ideas in design. When you are brainstorming, a lot of thoughts will come around, a lot of things will come, you understand? The most important thing is that jot them down. When an idea drop in your mind, pen it down, jot it down, pick up your pen, write it on paper, get your sticky note, put those ideas on paper. Do you understand? So that you will always have it, you always have it at the back of your mind that, oh, while I was trying to articulate the problem I'm trying to solve and defining my user's needs, okay, something came to my mind, then I put it down. It might not even be that particular thing you put down that will, that particular thing it might not be the one that will be the best solution at that moment. But putting it down can actually inform another idea or can actually birth another idea that will be the final solution to what you are trying to solve. But if you're saying, oh, I will remember, imagine you just forget. And the funny thing is, you may not even remember that particular idea again. So in design, in UI UX design, there are no stupid ideas. Generate creative solutions and brainstorm ideas. Put your ideas on paper. Then you can always revisit them. With time, as you brainstorm, as you try to be creative as much as possible, you begin to have what? You begin to have more clarity as far as what you want to do is concerned, as far as what your solution is going to be is concerned. Then after this, we prototype. I won't be going in depth into what prototype and test means, but you will get it. Don't fret, you get it. Because its prototype is more of the technical part of UI UX design. When we say prototype, you build a low fidelity representation of your design to test. Here, before you build your final design, we have something we call low fidelity design. Low fidelity design often comes from what we call wireframe. And wireframe is like the skeletal part of your design. Remember, in UI UX, in this session that we're having, we are much more focused on what? On a digital product. And a digital product can either be a mobile application like Kuda Hub, like the GT Bank Hub, like Access Bank Hub, like MoneyPoint Hub. These are finance hubs. Do you understand? A wireframe, a low fidelity design is a skeletal part of that particular design you're building. It is not the final design you are going to push out there for the world to use. It is something that just represents the skeletal representation of me, that just represents the skeletal part of the actual design that you want to build. That is why we call it low fidelity representation of your design. It is not the design that you push out there. Do you understand? You build a low fidelity representation of your design to test. Then when you create this for testing purpose, that is why you build a low fidelity representation of your design. It is for testing purpose. Although even after creating the real design that will be pushed out there, you're still going to test and get feedback from users. But for now, prototyping or building a low fidelity representation of your design will actually help you to get a reasonable amount of information or feedback that can inform how your final design that will be pushed out there will look like. So if you don't do this, if you don't carry out the low fidelity representation of your actual design, and you just go ahead to build the design that you want to push out there, it might be a problem, especially if you have a very limited time to ensure that things are done. It will be a problem. So when you build a low fidelity representation of your design, then you push it out there for testing. You can just gather a few people, maybe 4 or 5 people, real people here, not just something you just come up with from your head. Do you understand? You gather user feedback and you iterate on the design. This is the beauty of prototyping and testing. When you are not even done with the final product. When you build a low fidelity representation of your design, you push it out there for testing. You can test your design, your low fidelity designs. You can test them with just 2, 3, 4, 5 people. And you get an insight to what should be improved, what is not supposed to be there, or what is supposed to be there but is not there. Then you get an idea of what it will be. And these 5 phases of the design process are something you need to be very, very careful with, because these 5 design processes that you're looking at, they will inform how great you are as a UI/UX designer. They will tell whether you actually know the job you're doing. I can see we are really running out of time here, so let's just move to the next slide. So I said something in our second slide that there are UI best practices. So, and I said those best practices, they are principles, they are guidelines that informs how a UI design looks like. So let me just explain 4 of them here. They are more than this, but let me explain these 4. We have consistency, we have clarity, we have hierarchy, and we have feedback. Consistency, as far as UI design is concerned, it simply means that when you are designing something, let's say you are designing a mobile app. Remember I told you, this part of UI/UX is mainly focused on digital product, which can either be a web application, a mobile application, or a website. So when we say consistency, it simply means you have to be consistent with your visuals, your typography, your layout. Typography, color, and the likes, they are what? They are the design elements that you're working with. Typeface, also known as typography, that is the kind of fonts that you use when you're, let's say you are building a sign-up page for a particular mobile app. If you use Inter, make sure that for every input field on that particular screen, do you understand? You use Inter. Inter is a type of font. Don't get yourself worked up. Don't worry. In the next class, you are going to have more clarity on what I'm explaining here.